The bank teller slid a yellow sticky note across the counter with my deposit receipt. I'm Lewis Pearson, 73 years old, and that Tuesday afternoon at Wells Fargo changed everything. The note had 7 words in blue ballpoint pen. Your son's withdrawing your pension. Ask me after. I'd come in to deposit an $850 royalty check from a bridge design patent. I filed back in 1998. Routine. Same branch on Route 10 I'd been using for 20 years. Same teller, Rachel, 28, always polite. But now my hands were shaking. I looked up. She gave me that careful sympathy you give someone whose world just shifted. A tiny nod toward the manager's office. They didn't know I'd been a civil engineer for 40 years. They didn't know about the journals. And they definitely didn't know about the $2.4 million. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Because what happened next proved that sometimes the quietest people are just gathering evidence. Let me take you back to how this started and how it ended. I need you to understand what my life looked like when that note arrived. I'm a widower. Margaret, my wife of 43 years, died 5 years ago. Ovarian cancer, stage 4. I watched her fade over 18 months at St. Clair's Medical Center, room 412. October 8th, 2019. That's the day the world went quiet. After she passed, I simplified everything. I live in a 2-bedroom condo, Unit 7B, Oak Ridge Commons. $1,200 a month, paid off. The place is clean, modest, beige carpet. Margaret's photo on my nightstand in an 8x10 silver frame from our wedding day, 1981. I drive a 2011 Toyota Camry. Silver. 140,000 miles. Small dent on the rear bumper from a parking lot incident back in 2017. Manual transmission. Margaret always said automatics were for people who didn't want to think while driving. My clothes come from Costco. $16.99 jeans, flannel shirts, reading glasses from CVS, $12 a pair. My routine hasn't changed in 5 years. Tuesdays, I go to the bank. Thursdays, physical therapy for the knee, old injury from a construction site inspection in 2003. Saturdays, grocery shopping at Wegmans. 10 a.m., right when they open. Same aisles, same brands. To anyone watching, I look like, well, exactly what I am. A 73-year-old man living on a pension, trying to stretch his dollars, missing his wife. My pension's $3,600 a month from the Civil Engineering Union. 40 years of 6 a.m. shifts, blueprints, and concrete. It's enough. I live on maybe $1,800. Condo, utilities, food, gas. The rest just sits there. I never touch my other accounts. Never needed to. But here's what people saw. An old man in Costco jeans driving a beat-up Camry. And that made me a target. 3 weeks before Rachel handed me that note, I was at my older son David's house for Sunday dinner. David's 45, cardiologist, successful, good man. My middle son Brian showed up late. Barely said hello. Brian's 42, sales manager for an industrial equipment company. He lives in a 4-bedroom colonial in Oakwood Estates. Nice house, big mortgage. I was in the kitchen when I heard him talking to his wife, Ashley, in the hallway. They didn't know I could hear. Brian said, "Dad's still driving that old Camry?" Embarrassing. Ashley laughed. "Maybe he doesn't have the money. Have you checked his accounts lately?" Brian, "He lives on what, $3,000 a month pension? That's it. David and Kate probably help him out." I stood there holding a dish towel. Didn't move. Didn't say anything. I just made a mental note. The way I've been doing for 50 years. See, they didn't know about the journals. Margaret taught me that. "Write it down, Lewis," she'd say. "Memory fades. Ink doesn't." 50 years of journals. Black leather bound. Dated spines. 1974 through 2024. On an oak bookshelf in my home office, the 2nd bedroom I converted after Margaret passed. Every family dinner. Every gift given. Every dollar spent on each child. Indexed by year, by name. Brian didn't know that. He thought I was just a sentimental old man keeping diaries. 6 months before the note, Brian asked for a spare key to my condo. "In case of emergency," he said. "Dad, you're alone now. What if you fall? I hesitated. Margaret's voice in my head, don't. But I gave it to him anyway. He's my son. You don't say no to your son. 2 weeks later, I noticed things. Small things. My iPad, barely used, mostly for checking email, had been moved. My desk drawer was slightly open. An old checkbook, leather cover, one I hadn't used in years. It had fingerprints on it. Fresh ones. I didn't confront him. I just watched. Because I'd worked on bridges for 40 years. You learn to recognize stress fractures before they collapse. Brian was a stress fracture. I went home from the bank that Tuesday and did something I almost never do. I logged into my online banking. The last time I'd checked was probably 3 months prior. Maybe longer. I trusted the system. AutoPay handled everything. I didn't need to monitor every transaction. But Rachel's note changed that. I pulled up my pension account. Started scrolling. May through January. 9 months, 36 unauthorized withdrawals, $600. 18 times, 750. 12 times, 850. 6 times. I did the math twice because I didn't want to believe it. $43,200. Gone. My chest tightened. I sat back in my desk chair, same chair Margaret used to sit in when she balanced our checkbooks every Sunday night. And I stared at the screen. That was a year of Margaret's cancer treatment copays. That was my granddaughter Zoe's entire college fund. I couldn't even quantify the betrayal in dollars. Then I saw it. October 8th. Margaret's birthday, the 5th anniversary of her death. Withdrawal, $850. He stole from me on her birthday. I closed the laptop, stood up, walked to the window. My hands were shaking again. And then I remembered. 6 months before Margaret died, she'd grabbed my hand in that hospital room. Room 412. The fluorescent lights humming. The morphine drip ticking. She said, "Louis, I need you to promise me something about Brian." "Anything, Maggie," I told her. "He's not like David and Kate. He never learned to be grateful. We gave him more help than the others, the rehab, the business loan, and he still thinks he got less." "He's just finding his way," I said. Her grip tightened. Even sick, dying, she was strong. "He's 37 years old. Stop protecting him from consequences. If he ever tries to take advantage after I'm gone, you cut him off. You don't owe him endless chances." I was crying. "I can't give up on our son." "I'm not asking you to give up. I'm asking you to love him enough to let him fail. Failure teaches. Enabling kills." I'd promised her. Sitting there, holding her hand, I'd promised. And then she died. And I'd spent 5 years breaking that promise. 5 years of being too afraid of confrontation, too afraid of losing him. So I stayed quiet when Brian made dismissive comments. Stayed quiet when Ashley posted Facebook photos of their expensive vacations while Brian owed me money. Stayed quiet when Brian stopped calling unless he needed something. I thought silence was kindness. Margaret knew better. Now, standing at my window, looking out at the parking lot of Oak Ridge Commons, I understood what was at stake. If I stayed silent now, Brian would keep stealing. He'd drain everything he could access. And when I died, probably within the next 10-15 years if I'm lucky, he'd be shocked to learn about the $2.4 million he never knew existed. He'd blame David and Kate. He'd contest the will. He'd destroy what was left of this family. But if I acted now, I could protect what Margaret and I built. The money we saved over 43 years. The legacy we wanted for our grandchildren. The lesson Brian needed to learn but never would unless someone forced him. I sat back down at the desk, opened a new document, and started documenting everything. Not to hurt him, to save what was left. 2 days after Rachel's note, I called Brian. "Hey, Dad," he answered. Background noise, traffic. He was driving. "You busy?" I asked. "Kind of. What's up?" "I wanted to see if you'd have lunch with me. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pause. "Tomorrow? Why?" "Can't a father take his son to lunch?" Another pause. Longer. Sure. Yeah. Where?" "Applebee's. Route 10. The one near the mall." "Okay. See you then." He hung up fast, like he was already suspicious. Good. Thursday, 1:15 p.m. He was late. I'd already ordered. Club sandwich, fries, iced tea, sat in a booth by the window, hands folded on the table. Brian walked in wearing a wrinkled dress shirt. His leased BMW was parked outside. Black, vanity plate, Brian P1. $680 a month, I knew because he'd complained about the payment once. He slid into the booth across from me. "Sorry, traffic." "No problem." The waitress came. He ordered a burger, no drink. Just water. We sat in silence until the food arrived. Then I said, "How's work? Sales good this quarter?" "Fine, busy. You know how it is." "And Ashley? Real estate market still tough?" "She's managing. Why?" I took a sip of iced tea. Slow, deliberate. "Just wondering. You seem stressed lately. Money tight?" His shoulders tensed. "We're fine, Dad. Why do you ask?" "No reason. David mentioned you asked him for a loan last month." Brian's face went red. That's between me and David. I'm not judging. If you need help, I don't need your help." The words came out sharp, too sharp. I set my glass down, looked at him. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm 42 years old. I don't need my father fixing my problems. I wasn't offering to fix them. I was offering to help." "Like you helped David? Paid his med school?" I kept my voice calm. "I helped you too, Brian." "Right. Sure. The scraps." My jaw tightened. First sign of anger I'd let slip. "Scraps. David got $180,000 for medical school. Kate got $95,000 for law school. I got what, a few thousand here and there? You got 2 rehab stays, $62,000 total." He flinched. I was sick. That doesn't count." "It counts. I also covered your business loan, $35,000, and your wedding, $18,000. You kept track? What, you have a spreadsheet?" I didn't answer, because yes, I do. "This is exactly what I mean," he said. "You helped David and Kate because you're proud of them. You helped me because you felt sorry for me." "That's not true." "It is. And you know what? I'm done feeling guilty for not being them." He started to stand. "Brian, sit down." He hesitated, then sat, slowly. "What?" His voice was cold now. "I just want to understand. Do you resent me?" "I resent the favoritism." "I never favored. You always have. You just don't see it. But I do. Ashley does. Everyone does." I let the silence sit. Strategic. Let him think he'd won the argument. Then I said, "If you ever need money, Brian, ask. Don't do anything rash." His eyes narrowed. "Why would you say that?" "Because you're my son, and I'd rather you come to me than make a mistake." He stared at me, calculating, trying to figure out if I knew something. Finally he said, "I'm not a kid anymore, Dad. I can handle my own finances." "Okay?" I nodded. "I believe you." I paid the bill, left cash on the table. We walked out together but didn't speak. In the parking lot, I watched him get into his BMW. The vanity plate, the leather interior, I could see through the window. He drove off without looking back. I got into my Camry, started the engine, then I drove to Best Buy. Bought a Sony voice recorder, model ICD PX470, $89. When I got home, I called attorney Victoria Hayes, Margaret's college roommate, estate planning specialist, known her 22 years. "Victoria, I need to see you. It's about Brian." "What happened?" "He's been stealing from my pension. 9 months, $43,000, and he thinks he's justified." Silence on the line, then, "Jesus, Lewis, come in tomorrow. Bring documentation. We'll build a case." I hung up, sat at my desk, and thought about Margaret. She'd been right about everything. That night, I went to the bookshelf in my office. 50 black leather journals, spines labeled by year, 1974 to 2024. 5 decades of my life, documented in blue ink. I pulled Journal 2019, the year Margaret died. Opened to the section marked Brian. March 15th, 2019. Brian called, needs $8,500 for business opportunity, asked details. He got defensive. Wired money anyway. Margaret says I'm enabling. She's right. But he's my son. June 3rd, 2019. Brian's business failed. Lost all $8,500. He hasn't apologized or acknowledged the loan. Ashley posted vacation photos from Turks and Caicos on Facebook. Margaret showed me. I said nothing. Then September 22nd, 2019. Brian asked for another $5,000. I said no. First time ever. He hung up on me. Margaret squeezed my hand. Good, she said. I closed the journal. Pulled 2024. Current year. The section for Brian was shorter now, because I'd stopped giving. But I'd never stopped documenting. Every dismissive comment, every time he avoided me at family gatherings, every Facebook post showing expenses he claimed he couldn't afford. Brian thought these were just old man diaries. He didn't realize I was building a legal record. The next morning, Friday, I drove to Victoria Hayes' office, downtown Morris County. Hayes and Associates Estate Planning. Burgundy brick building, 3rd floor. Her office had burgundy leather chairs, mahogany desk, law degrees on the walls, photos of her family, husband, 2 kids, golden retriever. Louis, she stood when I entered, hugged me. Sit down. Show me what you have. I slid a printout across her desk. 36 pages, bank statements, every withdrawal highlighted in yellow. She scanned them, her face hardened. 43,200. Jesus Christ, Louis. Can I prosecute? Depends. Does he have power of attorney? No, I never signed one. Then yes, this is theft. Elder financial abuse, class 3 felony, in New Jersey, 3 to 5 years. My stomach turned. I don't want him in prison. Then what do you want? I looked out her window. The parking lot below, people coming and going, normal lives. I want him to face what he did, publicly. I want David and Kate to know. I want Ashley to know. I want him to understand that I'm not weak. I'm patient. Victoria leaned back in her chair. A public confrontation. Margaret's memorial dinner, November 23rd, 5 years since she passed. I've already booked Ridgewood Country Club. 40 people invited, family, friends. She smiled slowly. You devious bastard. I learned from the best. Margaret always said, if you're going to set a boundary, make sure everyone can see it. Victoria pulled out a legal pad. Okay, we have 6 weeks. I'll draft a revised will, cut Brian out completely, put the kids' money in educational trusts, and I'll prepare a repayment contract with 2 options. Pay it back or face prosecution. What about evidence? Bring me everything, bank statements, journals, any recordings or texts. We'll organize it. When you stand up at that dinner, you'll have a case that would hold up in court. I stood, shook her hand. Thank you, Victoria. Louis. She held my hand an extra second. Margaret would be proud. That afternoon, I called my CPA, Martin Fletcher, 58, managed Margaret's and my investments for 28 years. Martin, I need current valuations on all accounts. Everything, the IRAs, the trusts, the CDs, everything, in writing, notarized. Pause. Louis, what's going on? Brian's been stealing. I'm going to show him what he lost. The 2.4 million? Every penny. Silence. Then, I'll have the documents ready next week. I hung up, looked at Margaret's photo on my desk. 6 weeks, Maggie, I said aloud. 6 weeks, and then I keep my promise. I had time to let Brian hang himself, and he would, because he didn't know I was watching. October 15th, 2024. Zoe's 9th birthday party. Brian and Ashley's house. 4-bedroom colonial, Oakwood Estates. The kind of house that screams, we're successful even when you're drowning in debt. I arrived at 2 p.m. The party was in full swing. Balloon arch in the driveway, probably $400. Catered food, at least $800. Bounce house in the backyard, $600, maybe more. Brian claimed money was tight. This party cost more than my monthly pension. The adults were in the living room. Coffee table covered with appetizers. Wine glasses. Small talk. David and his wife Rebecca were there. Kate and her husband Tom. Extended family. Brian's work friends. I sat in an armchair by the window. Kept quiet. Watched. Ashley was holding court near the kitchen. Loud, animated. She turned to me. Louis, can I get you something to drink? We have wine, beer. Oh, wait, you probably just want water, right? She laughed. Gotta watch that fixed income. A few people laughed. Nervous laughs. David frowned. Ashley, come on. What? I'm just being considerate. Not everyone can afford fancy drinks. She gestured at her wine glass. We're just lucky we can help out where we can. Right, Brian? Brian was standing near the fireplace. He looked uncomfortable but didn't stop her. Yeah, well, some of us didn't get a free ride to medical school, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Some of us had to build our own success. David's jaw clenched. Brian, all of us. Sure, if you count scraps as help. I felt eyes on me. Pity, embarrassment. I set my water glass down, stood. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. I walked down the hallway, found the bathroom, locked the door, pulled out my phone, opened the Notes app, typed, October 15th, 2024, 2:35 p.m., Zoe's birthday. Ashley mocked my fixed income in front of 15 plus people. Brian said I gave him scraps. Neither stopped the humiliation. Witnesses, David, Kate, Rebecca, Tom, others. I saved the note, washed my hands, looked at myself in the mirror, 73 years old, gray hair, reading glasses, flannel shirt from Costco. I looked exactly like what they thought I was, a vulnerable old man. Good. I left the party early, 3 p.m. Not feeling well, I told David. He walked me to the door. Dad, I'm sorry about that. Ashley was out of line. It's fine. It's not fine. I patted his shoulder. I'll handle it. Outside, I walked to my Camry, parked on the street. I was unlocking the door when I heard voices. Low, urgent. Brian and Ashley, in their driveway, 50 feet away, standing by their BMW. They didn't see me. I was behind my car door, partially hidden. I reached into my glove compartment, pulled out the Sony voice recorder, pressed record, held it low, by my side. Their voices carried in the quiet suburban street. Ashley, did you take care of the transfer? Brian, 1200 this morning, should clear tomorrow. Ashley, good. We need it for Ethan's tuition. Brian, I know. Ashley, do you think he noticed yet? Brian, Dad, no way. He barely checks his account. And even if he did, what's he gonna do? He's got no proof. Ashley, David seems suspicious. Brian, David's always suspicious. Forget him. Dad's pension is $3,600 a month. He lives on what, $1,200? He doesn't need the rest. We do. Ashley, what if he asks? Brian, he won't. And if he does, I'll say I borrowed it. Family loan. He gave David and Kate way more. He owes me. Ashley, you're right. You're absolutely right. Brian, of course I am. Now let's get back inside before someone notices. Footsteps. The front door closed. I stood there. Recorder still running. Hand shaking. He owes me. That's what my son said. After 43 years of marriage. After Margaret's death. After every sacrifice, every second chance, every dollar we gave him. Dollars we earned, saved, invested carefully. He thought I owed him. I got in my car, sat in the driver's seat, stared at the recorder. 3 minutes, 47 seconds. Evidence. I drove home, pulled into my parking space at Oak Ridge Commons. Didn't get out immediately, just sat there. Then I opened my laptop, composed an email to Victoria Hayes. Subject line, evidence number 1. Attached the audio file. Body, recorded today. Brian and Ashley discussing theft. $1,200 withdrawal this morning. Admission of intent. Justification based on false narrative. More to come. Sent. That night my phone buzzed. Text from Kate. Dad, are you okay? You left abruptly. Is everything all right with your health? I replied, I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired. Kate. Is Brian bothering you? He and Ashley were off tonight. Lots of little comments. Me. I noticed. Kate. If something's going on, you can tell me. I'm a lawyer, remember? I deal with family stuff all the time. I stared at the screen. Kate's instincts were good. She sensed something, but I couldn't involve her yet. Not until I had the full picture. Me. I know, Katie. If I need help, you'll be the first I call. I promise. Kate. Okay. I love you, Dad. Me. I love you too. I set the phone down, looked at Margaret's photo. 5 weeks left, Maggie, I whispered. 5 weeks, and then everyone knows. November 23rd, 2024. 5 years since Margaret left me. Ridgewood Country Club, private dining room, 6 p.m. I'd booked it months earlier, 40 guests. Family, friends, Margaret's college roommates, former colleagues, church friends. U-shaped table, white tablecloths, white roses, Margaret's favorite, in crystal vases. Photos of her around the room. Wedding day, 1981, family vacations. That last photo, taken in the hospital. Her smiling despite the chemo. Soft classical music. Chopin, her favorite composer. Brian and Ashley arrived at 6:15, on time for once. Brian wore a suit. Ashley, black dress, playing the part of devoted son and daughter-in-law. They had no idea what was coming. David and Kate were already there. David kept glancing at me. He knew something was off. I'd been quieter than usual the past few weeks. Kate sat next to me, squeezed my hand. You okay, Dad? I'm good, sweetheart. Attorney Victoria Hayes sat 3 seats down. Burgundy blazer, that leather briefcase beside her chair. Dinner was served. Salmon, roasted vegetables, dinner rolls. People ate, talked, shared memories of Margaret. At 7:45, I stood, tapped my water glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. Thank you all for coming tonight, I began. 5 years ago, we lost Margaret. My wife, a mother, a friend to so many of you here. I paused, looked around the room. 40 faces watching me. Margaret was the strongest person I knew. She taught me about integrity, about documentation. I glanced at Brian. His face went pale. And about knowing when to stop enabling bad behavior. Confusion rippled through the room. Tonight isn't just about remembering Margaret. It's about honoring what she believed in. Accountability, honesty, protecting what you've built. I took a breath. Margaret and I spent 43 years building a life together. We saved carefully, invested wisely. We helped our children when they needed it, all 3 of them, equally, despite what some might believe. Brian's hands gripped the table edge. But tonight I need to address something Margaret warned me about before she died. She said, Louis, if one of our kids ever tries to take advantage, don't stay silent. Silence is permission. I let that sit. So I'm not staying silent anymore. Dead silence. Brian, would you stand up, please? He didn't move. Brian, stand up. Slowly he stood. Ashley grabbed his hand. For the past 9 months, you've been withdrawing money from my pension account without my permission. 36 transactions. $43,200. Gasps, whispers, shocked faces turning toward Brian. That's... Dad, I can explain. Brian started. No, you're going to listen. I nodded to Victoria. She opened her briefcase, pulled out bound packets, handed them to David, Kate, 2 others seated nearby. These are bank statements, I continued. May through October, 36 unauthorized withdrawals. $600 here, $850 there. Always on days you knew I'd be at physical therapy or grocery shopping. Brian's face was white. You used the spare key I gave you for emergencies, you said, to access my home office. You found old banking passwords on an iPad I barely use. You set up electronic transfers. I was going to pay you back, Brian tried. With what money, Brian? You're drowning in debt. $520,000 mortgage, $680 monthly lease on a BMW you can't afford. Private school tuition you're behind on. Ashley started to stand. Kate stepped in front of the door. Sit down, Ashley, Kate said quietly. Ashley looked at Brian, then sat. But the theft isn't the worst part, I said. The worst part is your justification. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the portable speaker I'd set up earlier for the slideshow. This is a recording from October 19th, Brian's driveway, after Zoe's birthday party. I pressed play. Brian's voice filled the room. Dad's pension is $3,600 a month. He lives on what? $1,200? He doesn't need the rest. We do. He gave David and Kate way more. He owes me. The room was silent. 40 people staring at Brian. David dropped his head into his hands. Kate's jaw was clenched. You think I owe you? I said. I picked up one of my journals from the table beside me, open to a marked page. Let me remind you what I actually gave you. My voice was steady, calm. 2002. First rehab, Pine Grove Recovery Center, $28,000. 2008. Second rehab, Sunrise Detox, $34,000. 2011. Business loan for your consulting venture, $35,000. Never repaid. 2014. Your wedding, $18,000. 2019. Emergency loan, $8,500. Total, $123,500. I looked at David, then Kate. David's medical school cost $180,000, but he paid me back, every penny, over 10 years. Kate's law school cost $95,000. She paid me back too, over 8 years. I turned back to Brian. You got the most help, Brian, and you squandered it. Then you stole from me, and you told yourself I owed you. Brian's voice was breaking. You always favored them. I loved you equally. That's why this hurts. I reached for another document. Trust papers, thick stack. Margaret and I saved $2.4 million over our lifetime. From my engineering work, her life insurance after she died, careful investments. Brian's eyes went wide. You didn't know it existed. You thought I only had the pension. That's why you felt safe stealing from it. I paused. That $2.4 million was going to be split 3 ways. David, Kate, and you, $800,000 each. Your kids' college funds, your retirement. The room was silent except for soft crying. Ashley, Zoe, confused and scared at a side table where the kids sat. Was going to be split. Past tense. Brian's face crumbled. I met with Attorney Hayes 6 weeks ago. We revised my will. Brian, you are no longer a beneficiary. The $2.4 million will be split between David and Kate. Your children, Ethan and Zoe, will receive educational trusts, $100,000 each, accessible only for college, managed by Kate. You will never touch it. Additionally, I've filed an elder financial abuse report with Morris County Sheriff's Office. Detective Linda Grant has the evidence. I picked up a final document. You have 2 choices. My voice was firm but not cruel. Choice 1, you publicly apologize. Tonight, you enter financial counseling. You repay the $43,200 over 5 years, $720 per month, automatically withdrawn from your paycheck, verified by Martin Fletcher. If you complete this, I won't press charges. Choice 2, you refuse. I prosecute. Elder financial abuse is a 3rd-degree felony in New Jersey. 3 to 5 years in prison, $15,000 fine, permanent criminal record. You lose your job. Ashley loses her real estate license. Your kids grow up knowing their father is a thief. I set the paper down. You have until Monday to decide. Attorney Hayes will be in touch. I sat down. The room was dead silent. Then Victoria stood. I'll be collecting statements from witnesses. If anyone heard Brian or Ashley discuss this theft prior to tonight, please see me before leaving. David walked over, put his hand on my shoulder, said nothing, just stood there. Kate joined him. Brian and Ashley remained frozen, 40 pairs of eyes on them. Finally, Brian grabbed Ashley's hand. They walked out. The door closed behind them, and I let out a breath I'd been holding for 9 months. The weekend was brutal. Friday night, after the memorial dinner, Brian called me 14 times. I didn't answer. Saturday morning, the text started. Dad, please call me. We need to talk. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. You can't do this to your grandkids. David and Kate turned you against me. Then the last one, the one that made my blood boil. Mom would be ashamed of you. I stared at that message for a full minute. Then I replied, only once. Your mother warned me about you. She saw this coming. Don't contact me again until you're ready to sign the contract. Attorney Hayes has it. I didn't hear from him the rest of Saturday, but Saturday afternoon, Ashley posted on Facebook. Public. Sometimes family betrays you in the worst ways. False accusations and public humiliation. We know the truth. God knows the truth. Within an hour, Kate sent me a screenshot, along with a message. She's unbelievable. Kate also told me that 3 of Ashley's real estate clients had already called Garden State Realty to pause working with her. Word travels fast in Morris County. Sunday was quiet. Too quiet. Around 3 p.m., my intercom buzzed over and over. I didn't answer. Then Brian's voice came through, shouting, "I'm your son! You can't abandon me!" My neighbor, Mrs. Collins, 82, lives in 7C, knocked on my door. "Louis, should I call the police?" "No, he'll leave. He always does." She stayed with me for 20 minutes, brought tea. Finally, we heard Brian's car start. Drive away. Mrs. Collins squeezed my hand before she left. "You're doing the right thing." I wasn't sure I believed her. Monday, 9 a.m., Victoria's office. I arrived first. Sat in one of the burgundy leather chairs, waited. At 9:05, Brian walked in, alone. Ashley had refused to come. He looked destroyed, unshaven, red eyes, wrinkled shirt. Victoria's paralegal, a woman named Susan, sat in the corner as witness. Victoria slid a document across the conference table. "Brian, you're here to sign a repayment contract and issue a public apology. Are you prepared to do that?" Brian's voice was hoarse. "Do I have a choice?" "Yes, you can choose prosecution instead." "That's not a real choice." I spoke for the first time. "It's more choice than you gave me when you stole my pension." Silence. Brian stared at the table. "I'm sorry, Dad. I don't believe you." "I am. I thought you had plenty. You thought I was weak. You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought wrong." "It wasn't personal." I leaned forward. "Stealing from your father's the definition of personal." Victoria cleared her throat. "This contract stipulates the following: $43,200 repaid over 60 months, $720 per month, automatically withdrawn from your paycheck beginning December 1st. Managed through Martin Fletcher, CPA." She turned a page. "If you miss 2 payments, the contract voids and prosecution proceeds. You will also issue a written apology to be read at our next family gathering. Christmas dinner. You will attend financial counseling, 6 months minimum, weekly sessions, proof required." Brian's hands shook. "And if I do all this? Your criminal record stays clean. Your kids' trusts remain intact, but you will not be reinstated in the will. The $2.4 million trust allocation is final." Brian looked at me. "So I lose everything anyway." "You lost it when you stole. This just makes it official." He picked up the pen, signed, 3 copies, each one notarized by Susan. Victoria collected the documents, filed them in her briefcase. Brian stood. "You're really going to do this? Cut me off completely?" "I'm protecting what your mother and I built. That's what parents do. Mom would have forgiven me." I stood too, looked him in the eye. "No, she wouldn't have. That's why she warned me about you." Brian left without another word. December 1st, I woke up early, made coffee, sat at my desk, opened my online banking at 8 a.m., refreshed the page at 8:30, 9:30. At 9:43, a notification appeared. Deposit, $720. Pearson B. Restitution payment, $160. I stared at the screen. First payment. On time. 59 more to go. I picked up my phone. Called Martin Fletcher. "It cleared," I said when he answered. "Yes, automatic withdrawal setup confirmed. He can't stop it without breaching the contract. 59 more months." "You did the right thing, Louis." I looked at Margaret's photo. "Then why does it feel like I lost a son?" Martin's voice was gentle. "Because you did. But you saved your dignity. And you protected what you and Margaret built. That matters more." I hung up. Sat in silence for a long time. Then I opened my journal. Current year. Turned to a fresh page. Wrote, December 1st, 2024. First payment received. Brian complied. Contract active. Relationship irreparably damaged but boundaries set. Margaret would approve. Not sure I do, but it's done. I closed the journal, stood, walked to the window. The parking lot outside was quiet. Monday morning, people at work. My Camry sat in its usual spot. 17 years old, dented bumper. But it ran. I'd spent 73 years being kind, accommodating, avoiding conflict, and it had nearly cost me everything. Margaret knew that. She'd tried to teach me. It took losing her, and almost losing my life savings, to finally learn. Quiet power isn't weakness, patience isn't permission, and documentation beats emotion every single time. I took a breath. Then I went to make breakfast. The consequences came fast. December 3rd, 2 days after the first payment cleared, Ashley's phone rang. Her managing broker at Garden State Realty. Emergency meeting requested. Kate told me this later. She'd heard it through a mutual friend whose sister worked at the same agency. The broker had seen Ashley's Facebook post, heard rumors from the memorial dinner. Enough witnesses had talked. The decision, 90-day suspension, mandatory ethics retraining, if she wanted to keep her license. Ashley lost $40,000 in pending commissions, deals she'd been working on for months. She texted me once. I didn't respond. "You've destroyed my career. Are you happy now?" I deleted it. December 10th. Brian's employer, Industrial Solutions Incorporated, launched an internal review. HR got an anonymous tip. If Brian steals from family, would he steal from clients? They audited his accounts, expense reports, client dealings, found nothing. Brian was clean at work. But the promotion he'd been expecting, vice president of sales, salary bump to $115,000, didn't come through. He stayed at $85,000. Passed over. No explanation given. Kate heard about it from David, who heard from Rebecca, who'd run into Brian's co-worker at the gym. Small town, word travels. December 20th. Brian and Ashley's membership at Ridgewood Country Club wasn't renewed. Stated reason, financial review. Real reason, Victoria Hayes' husband sat on the board. He didn't want the scandal association. Ashley tried to fight it. Called the club manager. Made a scene. It didn't matter. Social circles closed. Quietly, permanently. She posted on Facebook again, then deleted it an hour later. Fake friends. Fake family. We'll rebuild without you. Nobody commented. But the hardest part wasn't Brian and Ashley. It was Ethan and Zoe, my grandchildren. Brian told them they couldn't see me anymore, that I'd been mean to him. Ethan was 12, old enough to ask questions. Christmas Eve, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Grandpa, it's me." Ethan, calling from a friend's phone. My voice broke. "Ethan, hi buddy." "Dad said we can't see you anymore, that you were mean to him." "It's complicated. Did Dad do something bad?" I paused. How do you explain this to a 12-year-old? "Yes, but that doesn't change how I feel about you and Zoe." "I miss you." "I miss you too. Tell you what, Attorney Kate is your trustee now. She'll make sure you can always reach me, okay?" "Okay. Love you, Grandpa." "Love you too." I hung up, and I cried. For the first time since Margaret's funeral. David took me to lunch. December 8th, a diner near his hospital. "I didn't know you'd helped Brian that much," he said. $123,000? He doesn't remember, or he's rewritten history. Rebecca and I talked. We want you to know. We support your decision. Brian crossed a line. "You're not upset about the $2.4 million? It was supposed to be 3 ways. David set his fork down. "Dad, you could give it all to charity and I'd support you. It's your money. You earned it. And honestly, Brian would have blown his share anyway." He pulled out his checkbook, wrote a check, slid it across the table. $5,000. "Brian borrowed this from me last year. I never expected it back. But I want you to have it. For your legal fees." "David, I don't need—" "Take it, please." I took it. Kate visited me every week, brought groceries, cooked dinner, checked on me. She's a good daughter, always has been. December 15th, she was reviewing my bank statements. I'd given her temporary power of attorney for oversight to make sure this never happened again. She found something. Dad, there's more. Another $600 from a savings account. An old joint account with Margaret. One I'd forgotten existed. Brian took from that too. Let it go. I have what I need. Kate looked at me. You're a better man than I am. December 30th. Martin Fletcher called. Year-end portfolio review. The trust was allocated. David, 1 million. Kate, 1 million. Ethan's Education Trust, 100,000. Zoe's Education Trust, 100,000. Margaret Pearson, Integrity Scholarship. Local Community College, 200,000 endowment. Brian, 0. The scholarship made the local newspaper, January 5th. Headline, Local Engineer Establishes Scholarship in Late Wife's Name. The article mentioned my 40 years in civil engineering. Margaret's battle with cancer. The scholarship criteria, financial need and demonstrated personal integrity. It didn't mention Brian, but everyone in Morris County connected the dots. Brian saw the article, didn't respond. New Year's Eve. I sat alone in my condo, Unit 7B, same place I'd been living for 5 years since Margaret died. Poured a glass of Pinot Noir, Margaret's favorite. Looked at her photo. Maggie, I kept my promise. 59 months left of payments. I don't know if Brian will finish. I don't know if we'll ever speak again. David and Kate are safe. Ethan and Zoe will have their education. You'd be proud of them. I paused. But I lost a son. Or maybe I lost him years ago and I'm just finally admitting it. You were right. Enabling isn't love. Boundaries are love. I just wish love didn't hurt this much. I raised the glass to her photo. Happy New Year, Maggie. Thank you for teaching me how to be strong. 3 months later, March 1st, 2025. Payment number 4, cleared. $720, on time. Brian hadn't missed one yet. He also hadn't contacted me. I heard through Kate that he and Ashley separated. Ashley moved to her mother's in Pennsylvania. Brian lives alone now in that big colonial house in Oakwood Estates. The kids see me once a month. Kate facilitates. Picks them up, brings them to my condo. We watch movies, play chess, get ice cream. Brian doesn't interfere. Maybe he's too ashamed. Maybe he just doesn't care anymore. I don't know. My routine hasn't changed much. Tuesdays at the bank. Rachel still works the same window. We've become friends in a way. She always asks if the payment cleared. He's keeping up, I tell her. You think he'll make it to 60? I don't know, but I hope so. Not for me. For him. For my grandkids. She smiles. You're a good man, Mr. Pearson. I'm a tired man, but I'm standing. March 15th. 6 years since Margaret died. I was cleaning out my home office, going through old boxes, things I'd kept but never looked at. Underneath some files, I found an envelope. My name. Margaret's handwriting. Sealed. A label on the front. Louis. Open only if Brian ever betrays your trust. I hope you never have to read this. M. My hands shook. I sat down at my desk, stared at the envelope for a long time. Then I opened it. Inside, a letter. Dated January 10th, 2019. 1 month before she died. My dearest Louis, if you're reading this, Brian has done something terrible. I'm so sorry. I hoped I was wrong about him. I've known for years that Brian resents us. Resents you specifically. Not because you failed him. Because he can't accept responsibility for his own choices. Middle child syndrome is real, but it's not an excuse for cruelty. Do you remember when Brian was 12? He stole $40 from my purse. When I confronted him, he didn't apologize. He said, "You give David more allowance." It wasn't true, but Brian believed it. He's believed it ever since. I've watched you give him chance after chance. The rehab, the loans, the endless patience. You gave him more than the others because he struggled more. But Brian sees it as proof you thought he was weak. Here's what I need you to know. You are not responsible for the man Brian became. You were a wonderful father. We gave him every tool. He chose not to use them. If he's stolen from you, betrayed you, hurt you, don't blame yourself. And don't stay silent. Silence taught him he could get away with anything. Set the boundary. Protect yourself. Protect our legacy. I know it will hurt. You'll think you failed as a father. You didn't. Some people aren't ready to be saved, no matter how much love you give them. Love David and Kate openly. Love Ethan and Zoe fiercely. They deserve to see strength, not endless enabling. And Louis, forgive yourself. You did everything right. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people choose resentment over gratitude. That's their failing, not yours. I love you. I'm proud of you. And wherever I am, I'm holding your hand through this. Forever yours, Margaret. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, placed it in my journal with all the evidence, final documentation. I sat back in my chair. You knew, I said aloud to her photo. You always knew. My relationship with David has deepened. We have dinner every Wednesday. His house, his wife Rebecca cooks. Their 3 kids, my grandkids, are growing up fast. David told me last week, Dad, you've been different since the memorial dinner. Lighter, somehow. I stopped carrying weight that wasn't mine to carry, I said. He smiled. Mom would have liked that answer. Kate and I have lunch once a month. She updates me on the trusts, on Ethan and Zoe's accounts. She's a good trustee, meticulous, like Margaret. They'll have everything they need for college, she told me. Brian can't touch it. Good. Do you ever think about reconciling with him? I thought about that. Every day. But reconciliation requires 2 people. Brian hasn't apologized, hasn't admitted he was wrong, until he does. Boundaries are healthy, Dad. Your mother taught me that. I spend time with Ethan and Zoe every month now. Ethan's learning chess. I teach him strategy, patience, how to think 3 moves ahead. Zoe loves when I read to her, same books I read to Brian when he was little. Last week, Ethan asked, Grandpa, why don't we see Dad when we're with you? I thought carefully. Your dad and I have some things to work out, but that has nothing to do with how much I love you. Do you still love Dad? Honest answer, I do, but love doesn't mean accepting bad behavior. You can love someone and still protect yourself. He thought about that, nodded. Smart kid. He'll be okay. I volunteer now, twice a week, tutoring engineering students at the local community college, 2-hour sessions, teaching them what I learned in 40 years. It feels good, purposeful. One student, a young woman named Emily, asked me last week, Mr. Pearson, what's the most important thing you learned in your career? I thought about it. That structures fail when you ignore the cracks. Whether it's a bridge or a relationship, you have to address the problem before it collapses. She wrote that down. I joined a grief support group too, finally processing Margaret's death 5 years later. Better late than never. People there understand loss, boundaries, the complexity of family. One man about my age said, the hardest part isn't losing them, it's learning to live without them. I nodded, and learning when to let go of people who hurt you even when you love them. He understood. March 20th. I made my final journal entry about Brian. March 20th, 2025. 5 payments cleared, 55 to go. I don't know if Brian will finish. I don't know if he'll ever apologize sincerely. I don't know if we'll reconcile. What I do know, I kept my promise to Margaret. I set boundaries. I protected our legacy. David and Kate are thriving. Ethan and Zoe know they're loved. I spent 73 years being nice, accommodating, conflict avoidant. And it nearly cost me everything. Quiet power isn't weakness, patience isn't permission, and documentation beats emotion every single time. Margaret taught me that. I finally learned. If anyone out there is dealing with a Brian, someone who takes and takes, then blames you for not giving more, here's my advice. Love them, but don't enable them. Help them, but don't rescue them. Document everything, set boundaries, and don't apologize for protecting yourself. Family is sacred, but so are you. I closed the journal, looked at Margaret's photo one more time. We did okay, didn't we, Maggie? In the silence, I could almost hear her voice. We did just fine, Louis. Just fine. That's my story. If it resonated with you, if you've been the Louis in someone's life, please leave a comment. Where are you watching from? What would you have done differently? I'd love to hear your thoughts.